Hello and greetings to everyone. This is Saya Palaniani speaking from Germany, from Aninja Vihara. Many blessings to you, to wherever you are in the world. I hope you are well and safe, protected from any danger, and ready to listen to the Dhamma again. As usual, since most people need some time to come on and join, we would just, in the beginning, for the time being, just sit and relax. And we can close our eyes. And straighten our back if necessary, because that is what is important. It's not important that we sit cross-legged on the floor. We can sit on a chair, but upright. That is important. You avoid a lot of pain, some digestion issues and things. So you want to sit upright. Take your time to bring yourself in this upright position. And make sure that everything else is relaxed. And your breath is going in and out of the body. You can't help it. You can't just stop breathing. It is breathing you. Because there is a life force still within you. So just let it happen. Do not try to control it. Do not try to be the master of it. Just let it happen and let it breathe in and out. Just put your attention on it. That is one of the major problems that we people in the Western countries are doing to ourselves, to our bodies. That we always pull the belly inside. Just particularly women are prone to this danger because they think it might look ugly or they might look fat when they relax your belly. You harm yourself with that. Having a little balloon or a little round belly is good. If you don't have, then something is wrong. Most probably, you're not relaxed. And even when you're very, very slim, when you are a thin person, when your belly is relaxed, It just hangs out a little bit. Relax your shoulders, relax your face. Just sit, not more, not less. No of the sitting. And prepare yourselves to listen to the Dhamma. Breathe in and take in with the breath all the freshness. And breathe out. Let go of everything that's stiff, old, tight. Thoughts may come and go, but they can be. You just don't focus on them. Let them there. And give room to the listening of the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Greetings to you who are there, greetings to those who will come, join later, and greetings to all of those who come and find this talk online and will listen to it later. I'm happy for you to be there, sending out my appreciation that you are interested in the Dhamma. And today's talk is about the same old sutta that we have been talking about the last 2 weeks. Yes, greetings to all who join in now. So, Majjhima Nikaya, number 44, the Culavedalla Sutta, or in English, the shorter series of questions and answers. This is a sutta we have been talking about the last 2 weeks already, and we're going through it in quite a detail, and we're most probably not coming to the end of this sutta today. There might be 1 or maybe 2 more talks on this, because I want to make sure that we all understand what enlightenment is about, what we are talking about. And of course, I would love for everyone to experience it. Hi, Edward. Happy to see you again. So, uh, yeah, the same sutta, old but brand new. It's an incredible, rich, an incredible deep sutta, and here we have two people discussing the Dhamma. There is the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna, who was an arahant at that time, and her former husband, who was not an arahant yet, and who was a householder. I'm not too sure um, whether he is the one who became a monk and enlightened later. But at this time, he's not. And he questions his former wife, and she gives answers to everything he asks. So we have been going through a lot already. We have been through talking about identity view and identity view. No, excuse me, of identity, then about identity view. Then we discussed last week the Eightfold Noble Path and concentration. And I do believe that we also talked about the formations. There were 3 and there were 5, and we talked about that. If you missed that, please go on to YouTube and look for the talks the last 2 weeks. And we already started to talk about this state of cessation. You know, where Visakha asked his former wife, the then Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna, lady, how does the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling come to be? And we have talked about this, what this means, really in length. And I gave you the example of how this feels, or how this must feel like with another sutta, and that was the Majjhima Nikaya 34, wrong way around, 43, and the larger series of questions and answers, where Mahakotita, the Arahant, and the Venerable Sariputta debated exactly that state and compared a human being or a bhikkhu who is sitting in this state of cessation, of perception and feeling, and a corpse, a dead body. So this is where we left off. We have debated that in length. And yes, I, of course, hope that one day you will be able to not only listen to talks about it, but that in your meditation practice one day you will experience this. And so we have said that this is a state of mind, actually, that you don't know when you are in. You know how to get in, This you must learn and gain mastery over the way to get in. But then you're gone, and then you get out again, and you have no knowledge of the time that passed when you were gone, when you were in this state of cessation. And we discussed it here in the monastery. We're talking about the very same sutta every Thursday, and so I used the example of I don't know if anybody of you knows Irish folk tales, and there somebody sometimes in those tales is falling into a hole, and this hole is kind of being where you get into the fairy world, and once you're in this world, you live there, but you are out of the other world. And once you get back into the world, into this world, you're still the same age as you were, but all the others are already old and aged a lot. So I said, well, just imagine it being like this. You just have no idea what was happening in between. But once you get out, you know you've been in that state. This is one of the characteristics that you do know. This has been it. And you would for certain know because you're different. And you would know because your state of awareness, of clearness, of happiness, all that must have changed. Otherwise, you have been just drowsy and dreaming somewhat and not knowing what was going on. There are states that are seemingly similar, but you are not that clear, you are not that awake and happy afterwards. So, and people can experience these states. Maybe not a Nirodha Samapatti, where they become arahants, but they can definitely experience these states becoming a stream enterer or a non-returner. According to my teachers, these states were, compared to arahantship, fairly easy to achieve. Of course, not easy. You have to give your life totally and fully to and dedicate yourself to the practice. But when you do, it should be possible for you. Whereas the states of being an arahant are extremely difficult, even for one who is a stream enterer, even for one who is a once returner or non-returner. So this is how they argued, saying, this is fairly easy compared to arahantship. Not that becoming an unenlightened person is really easy. That's not what they wanted to say. So this is just to recapitulate, you say that in English, to review what we have been talking about. Then Visakha asks Dhammadinna lady, when a bhikkhu is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, which states cease first in him, the bodily formation, the verbal formation, or the mental formation? You know that we have been talking about exactly those formations. And here, the bodily formation are breath. So he asks, is the breath coming back first? Are the thoughts coming back first? Or is some feeling the first? And here she says, friend Visakha, when a bhikkhu is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, first the verbal formation ceases, then the bodily formation ceases, and then the mental formation. So all this inner chatter is gone first. This is why I'm putting so much emphasis on learning to breathe and use this as a tool for stillness. You need stillness, but you can't force it. You can't sit down and say, now I'm going to be still and I'm not going to think. This won't work. So there are thoughts and you will be thinking, but by breathing and by knowing the breath, being with it and being with it 100%, you can learn to still your mind. So I'm just reading again the little paragraph about what these formations were, so that you remember better. In breathing and out breathing, friend Visakha, are the bodily formation, applied thought and sustained thought, which we know is a characteristic of the first jhana, are the verbal formations. Perception and feeling are mental formation. So this is what they are talking about. So when a bhikkhu gets into this state of perception, cessation of perception and feeling, first the verbal formation ceases. So the thoughts, those thoughts that are spinning around and molesting us, repeating themselves in circles, are long gone then. What you have left is applied thought and sustained thought. Thought that is directly related, connected with your meditation object. And you apply your mind to your meditation object. And then you sustain it there. And you might to have to repeat that several times. But then that ceases. You don't need to apply and sustain, but it's sustained without any force. It's just there. And there's no intention of the thoughts of going astray, going somewhere. This is real. This is where stillness starts. Let's put it that way. Friend Visakha, when a bhikkhu is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, the verbal formation ceases. So this applied and sustained thought then cease. They are no more. The mind just stays where you have put it last. Then the bodily formation cease. The bodily formation cease. We discussed that last week, and yes, that means in breath and out breath is ceasing. There would be no more breath that you can notice as an outsider. From the outside, this body would possibly look like a dead body. And in fact, there are stories of a monk. I think this was a Tibetan monk, but of course, my Thai tradition, they are all the same stories. There was a monk in hospital, and the doctor said he's dead. His heart is not. We can't make out any heartbeat, and we don't feel like there is any breath going on. So he must be dead, but he's not cold, he's not cooling, and he's not decaying. So that monk in hospital was in this state. And now you certainly have heard about this mummy monk who is sitting there since 200 years. This is not possible. This person or this body is a corpse. It is not a meditating monk. Because in the scriptures, it is said that this state is to last up to 7 days. The Buddha said he was doing it for 7 days, and this was the utmost happiness possible. And it is said that when you stay in this state longer than 7 days, then you would die. And the difference, we discussed the difference last week, is to check whether somebody is really in that state or dead would be the warmth. The body of the meditating person is still warm, and their face is kind of radiant, or they seem somewhat to be radiant. So this is the second that ceases. There is no more breath and no more heartbeat to be known in that person. Then the mental formation, and that, I repeated it just now, refers to perception and feeling. And last week when we talked about it here, somebody asked, yeah, but what about vijnana? What about consciousness? It is not said that consciousness ceases. So is that person conscious and knows? No. There is consciousness because the senses are all intact. But you wouldn't know when you are in that state that there is consciousness because there is no perception. whatsoever and no feeling. So yes, maybe there's consciousness, but there's no knowing about the consciousness within this state. Then again, Visakha asks, Lady, how does anyone emerge from that attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling? Friend Visakha, when a bhikkhu is emerging from the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him, I shall emerge from the attainment of cessation and percept. I shall emerge from the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, or I am emerging from the attainment of, I'm reading it wrong, I'm so sorry. I am emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, or I have emerged from the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, but rather his mind has previously been developed in such a way that it leads him to that state. So this is what I mean, what I meant earlier. That person who goes in there has most likely gained mastership over this state. So he knows, when I do this and that, when I apply a lot of focus, and when I have a strong awareness, when I'm breathing in this way and focus in this way and do this and do that, then I'm going right into that state. So that person knows how to get there, gets in and gets out, doesn't know beforehand, yeah, I'm going in and out. We try, in at the monasteries where I practiced, we do nights of Atitan. So we, like the Buddha, we sit down and make a strong resolve to get into those states. And then if you happen, and it's not sure, it's not that everybody gets there, this is not something that happens on some daily basis or so. But if it would happen, then the next thing would be that you start to gain mastery. So you resolve, may I get into this state after 5 minutes of meditation, like this and that, for 5 minutes or for whatever. So you try, you do your best. And in the way you got in, you get out. You don't resolve anything. You don't know anything about it. You're just out. And then, lady, when a bhikkhu is emerging from the attainment of cessation, again wrong, I'm reading again. Lady, when a bhikkhu is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, which states arise first in him? The bodily formation, the verbal formation, or the mental formation? And she says, friend Visakha, when a bhikkhu is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, first the mental formations arise. So first perception and feeling come back. Then the bodily formation comes back, meaning person is breathing again. A heartbeat is starting again. Then the verbal formation comes back. Then you would need to apply your mind, or you would have thoughts. Say it like that. There would be thoughts. So this is how you come out of that state. Friend Visakha, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of cessation, of perception and feeling, three kinds of contact touch him, she continues to say: voidness contact, signless contact, desireless contact. So this would then occur to a person emerging from such a state. She's calling it voidness contact. And signless. That means there you know probably about that there was nothing. You were gone, kind of. And there is no whatsoever desire to go back to the world. She continues, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, his mind inclines to seclusion, leans to seclusion, tends to seclusion. So one wouldn't want to jump right into daily affairs and think of having a party or so. You would just want probably to just sit there and continue practicing, continue being alone, and seek seclusion. So this is what these two people debated about Nibbana. You remember that we also discussed that this state of cessation of perception and feeling is Nibbana. And this can happen to people on various stages. In the lower stage, we would become a stream enterer. That would be good enough, wouldn't it? So, yes. But the sutta continues and gets into a different direction now. He then asks about feeling. Lady, how many kinds of feeling are there? So they were discussing the perception the cessation of perception and feeling. And now he asks about feeling. She says, friend Visakha, there are three kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So this is what we say to our meditators when we are talking about the four satipatthana. In the second compound, in the second compartment is his feeling. And there are these painful, pleasant, and neither painful nor pleasant. And these can either have their beginning in mental things or in physical things. But lady, he asks, what is pleasant feeling? What is painful feeling? What is neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, whatever is felt bodily or mentally as pleasant and soothing is pleasant feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as painful and hurting is painful feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as neither soothing nor hurting is neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So, as I said, it can be either mental or physical. And if you sit there and have a good idea and feel happy about it, this is a mental happy feeling or pleasant feeling. If you have a back pain, it's a physical unpleasant feeling. If you feel bad, if you feel sorry for yourself, if you have self-pity, then this is a mental unpleasant feeling. And most of the time of the day, we are in neither nor. We are just in, yeah, we don't know what we feel. It's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, so we don't take note of it. We take note of the extremes, like when it's quite happy or when it's quite unpleasant, then we know. But all those states of feeling in between, like yesterday, I knew I would be talking about this, so I laid down with my head on my pillow, and I felt my ear touching the pillow and my body touching the mattress. And I searched for a moment. But in an elderly body, there's always something hurting or being unpleasant. So I was waiting there for a neither nor. And so I was laying there, and then yes, there were moments when there was a tingling or an itch or something, but sometimes there was just nothing. It was just laying there. There were no thoughts about what I need to do or whatever, no thoughts of something particularly happy, nothing unhappy. So there was no mental nor any physical particular happy or unhappy feeling. And this is going on a lot within our lives. This doesn't mean that we are in a state of meditation. So even though we experience this in a meditation, but this is just a state where it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So, and people actually do confuse these states when there's just no feeling. They think they might be in some some jhanas already or so, but it's just a state where it's just nothing going on. So, lady, he asks his former wife Dhammadinna, what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to pleasant feeling? What is painful and what is pleasant in regard to painful feeling? What is pleasant and what is painful in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, pleasant feeling is pleasant when it persists and painful when it changes. Neither painful nor pleasant feeling is pleasant when there is knowledge of it, and painful when there is no knowledge of it. So she basically says we're happy when the painful feeling is over, then all is good and we enjoy. And yeah, you heard it. She said it. I don't need to repeat it, I think. So, how much have we left time? Now, the next paragraph is about underlying tendencies. And yeah, well, we can continue a bit. Lady, what underlying tendency underlies pleasant feeling? What underlying tendency underlies painful feeling? What underlying tendency underlies neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, the underlying tendency to lust underlies pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion underlies painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance underlies neither painful nor pleasant feeling. I would rather now continue with this next week, and would invite you, if you have any questions or any comments, please let me know in the chat. We have still a few minutes left. And I would be happy to clarify any doubts, if possible. So, if you wish, now would be the time. No movement in the chat then. Hmm. Um, oh, there they come. Oh, can here. There, first question. Can metta be an object to get to this state? Yes, but at some point, latest when you come to that place or to that moment, when you have no more, no more applied and sustained thought, so the verbal formations cease, then you have to let go of metta as your object. But metta, until then, until that moment, which is quite late, is absolutely perfect. You know, I'm a practitioner of naming the every moment, naming all the moments. Every single moment, I take note of the arising and the ceasing, and I name it. And also, this is all the same. You can do that until a certain time. But when it comes to that time, you must let go of your object. And you must just be, yeah, there and practice. And be still. So objects are necessary to get us to have a still mind. But when the mind becomes still, our object needs to be let go of for that time being. But yeah, question easily answered with yes, can. Metta is good. Metta is always good. Why do I see the skeleton when I close my eyes? Facebook user is Facebook user continues to write. He sees a skeleton. He has been doing 9 charnel grounds. So you must be in Asia, most probably, because here in the West, it's hardly ever possible to do well, you can do charnel ground and cemetery meditations, but you don't see hardly any dead corpses or so. You have been doing charnel ground meditation for some time, but you do not purposefully, deliberately look for skeletons, but you happen to see them. This can happen. These are called nimittas. Like we have talked about briefly about the nimittas. This is where a nimitta is something that you see. It's a mental, visual, or a physical visible object. It can be a sign. It can be something that you see. And when we talk about meditation practice, nimitta is mostly called something that you see, that I see skeletons, or some people see colors and lights. But the word nimitta is actually much broader than that. And so you can rightfully say, yes, that there is a mental image coming up, and you can either just let go of it, because that's what I would do with my way of practice. I would see a skeleton and say, seeing, 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 seeing. That would be one way to meditate on that, with that, when it happens. The other way is you see a skeleton before your eyes and you just try to keep this mental image in front of you. You try to keep it up. These images have the tendency to slip away and be disappearing all the time when you try to stay with them. And there are different ways to deal with these things, or to meditate on these things. And in the end, you must let go of it, because it's a mental image. And when you want to experience nibbana, as we have been discussing it, you must let go of it. But you can use it for meditation. It's wonderful. So Charles Lee, I'm never sure that I pronounce your name correct, so forgive me if I don't, is saying something. The wonderful insight is showing us that neutral experience can become pleasant when it is known and unpleasant when it is not known. This is my experience of boredom. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Because we hunger for information, we hunger for experience, and feeling is a means with which we really stuff our mental fill our mental hunger. And so we use this, and then it becomes pleasant. This is neither good nor bad. It's just as it is. Boredom can be terrible if it goes on for ages in the meditation. Then it can be quite unpleasant. And then when there is some thought, and even, or some feeling, even if it's unpleasant, it becomes something, oh yeah, right. So it can be, everything can turn into everything, we can say. Oh, wonderful. Happy to know. The closest thing I have done to charnel ground practice is sitting next to the decaying body of an animal that has died in the forest. Yes, that is maybe possible here in the West also. But nowadays, even in Asia, it's becoming more and more difficult to be with corpses and meditate with them. Kit, I'm happy if it's of good for you, what I'm saying. So, Edward, I'm suffering from terrible allergies this spring. So it is very difficult to breathe from the nose and follow the breath from there. Where would be the next best place to follow the breath? Um, I never focus on the nose while breathing. And during times of allergies, it is questionable whether focusing on the breath is a good idea. If you can bear seeing the suffering, and if you can bear up with it and accept it, then it is good, of course. But if it's really so hard to breathe and you cannot ever get some stillness or some kind of meditative calming down, then maybe a different object, entirely different object, like a nimitta or like a color or like a something very different from breathing could be good. For me, breathing meditation is always best because the Buddha said this is of great fruit and of great uh, oh, how did he say that again? A benefit, of great fruit and of great benefit. So this means it leads to nibbana. But if it's so difficult to breathe, and I know what you're talking of, then choose a very different object or try to follow the breath maybe on the chest and focus more on the rising and the falling of the abdomen. This is what I always do, focusing on the abdomen and noting rising when you breathe in and falling when you breathe out. Because when you breathe in, the abdomen is rising, and when you breathe out, it is falling back in the relaxed position. So we can talk more about that if you wish or need next week, because now time is up. Joseph Manuel, if we attain this state, wouldn't everything be experienced as painful in comparison? How do we function in the world after returning from that state? Our aunts are happy, so I misunderstand. Um, Joseph, I do believe, unfortunately, I can't answer this question out of my personal experience, but I do believe that arahants experience a very different kind of happiness, which is way beyond our worldly happiness when we are happy when something good happens to us and are unhappy when something bad is happening to us. So they would be able to be happy even when something is bad happening to them, or they would at least be able to have upekkha in those moments, or have compassion or sympathetic joy, or things like that. And I think once you get to those states, you most probably would not compare so much anymore. And you learned to accept things as they are. That is for certain in arahants. That must be so. As for me, yes, kind of. And this happens to a lot of people. There, at some point, when you have a certain meditative experience, not even this one, but even with other meditative experiences that are nice, you kind of experience the world as painful in comparison afterwards. But that's not what it is about. This is not the end of our practice. The end of our practice is reached when we get beyond comparing states and wanting to avoid the painful and wanting to have the unpainful. So yes, when it is so, one would have to learn to be just contented and to accept the things as they are with wisdom. Okay, now time is really up. I'm happy to see you next week and talk about all these interesting things next week. Equanimity, right? That's it. Let it go, let it be. Equanimity. Any blessings to you. Maybe you be protected from all harm, from all suffering. All the best to you. Bye-bye. Here, this I need to share with you. Radical acceptance. Yay! That's it, radical acceptance. And not going into liking or disliking for it. Okay, bye now.